All right, what's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. This is the book Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father. Amazon Kindle Create Space. For anybody who needs that, who needs a little guidance in the process, that's why I wrote it, because I think people need it. Topic for this video is more protests, more problems. B.I.G. the P.O. the P.A. No info. Okay. Anyway, God damn it. I burned my lip, made the food too hot, so this shit hurts. Anyway, of course, there are more NFL players who protested this weekend. More people who feel some type of way. Brandon Marshall lost his endorsement deal. At the same time, young high school player in Cleveland protested because his teammates wanted to call people, the opposing team, niggers. So he wasn't feeling that. So he protested because of that. And of course, they called him a nigger and said they wanted to lynch him. Same time, cop in West Virginia got fired for not killing a man like he was supposed to do, instead of defusing the situation, which is, part of these problems that come up. Same time, Pompano Beach, Florida, man got killed in his backyard by the police because his sister or something like that, a niece, called the police because they got into an argument. So they shot him in the back, if I ain't mistaken, 6 times. Now, the reason I bring up this because of the protests, because the people who protested, numerous high schoolers, like I said, more NFL players protest too, because we got problems, right? Shannon Sharp, I gotta agree with everything Shannon Sharp said for the most part. For the most part, that makes no sense, but I gotta agree with Shannon Sharp over the weekend when he was talking. I gotta tip my hat off to Skip Bayless for having that conversation. I saw Charles Woodson's clip, which he said something very interesting. And he said, he used to, that was one of the favorite things, was standing up singing the national anthem. When he found out, the guy who wrote it was a slave owner, he was like, he didn't write, he wasn't talking about us when he was talking about land of the free, home of the brave. He wasn't talking about me. He wasn't talking about Randy Moss, because Randy Moss was on the panel at the time. So, it's like, people are getting it. You got players. People don't necessarily like what Shaq said. I get it. His old man was a military man, so I kind of get it. But don't like necessarily what Ray Lewis said either. Definitely don't like what James Harrison said. And speaking of all those together, and you got the athletes who agree with it, who protest with them. You got the athletes who just agree with it and just say, "Hey, man, that's what it is." They just don't have the guts, I guess, to take a stand. They had Lil Wayne today on the same show with Shannon and Skip. I think it's Undisputed, and he was talking about, like, he really doesn't experience, he really didn't experience racism per se in his lifetime. Which for Lil Wayne, that kind of can make sense, because you gotta remember, he was a damn star at about 13, so he was in a whole nother stratosphere the bulk of his life. And he's 33 now, so I get it. And Shannon Sharp could get that too, in a sense, because Lil Wayne didn't say racism doesn't exist. He just said he's not affected by it. It hasn't really hit him. Which, okay, I can't say nothing about that. Now, saying what I've been saying so far is the idea that they got players who don't like what's going on. And I find it weird because they don't, you mad because somebody stood up for something that a lot of y'all didn't? That's the problem. He he should be an activist from the beginning. Well, if you never were an activist, why the hell? See, I don't get how people get to tell somebody what, when, why, how, and where to be something that they never were. So people just are supposed to keep it the status quo because you comfortable with it, and that could be a black person who cool with their position. Because I'm gonna say this: the one thing that I'll wait. I'm gonna get into that in a minute. Then you got these athletes who, we could do it differently, but nobody says what differently would look like. A lot of times, I know what they're trying to say. They're trying to say do it in a different way that the media and people will be able to squash it. So we won't have this conversation and ignore that whatever you had to say ever happened. So you can say you did it, but it won't be publicized, which really doesn't work nowadays because of social media. See, social media is slowly but surely killing mainstream media because mainstream media, for the most part, is full of shit. Now, you also got, the disrespect the flag people, which, and Shannon Sharp said this, the flag don't represent everything to everybody in a monolithic fashion. You got to understand, just like the Confederate flag was up for slavery, so was the USA flag. The United States of America flag was waving real high during Jim Crow. Didn't give a damn. The USA flag was waving real high during the Civil Rights Movement when people was getting assassinated. Didn't give a damn. The Civil Rights Movement, not the Civil Rights, the USA flag has been waving through the governmental underhanded way of putting drugs in the community, and the prison industrial complex and the miseducation of children, of people, and profiting off of this, the division and the racism and the prejudice this whole time. So to say the flag stands for all these ideals that it historically hasn't represented for everybody is kind of ridiculous. People can talk about, I got family in the military. I understand that. I ain't tripping. I get you. But don't act like, people in the military don't have to deal with racists. They got fucking neo-Nazis in the military. But whatever. And, same thing with respect for 9/11 and the innocent lives that were lost. It's hypocritical to say that when you're telling people to shut up about the innocent lives that were lost that they're talking about, and that's why they protested. Same thing about respect. People seem not to know that, they were booing President Barack Obama's 9/11 speech at a lot of these football stadiums while the anthem was playing. So it's very hypocritical. On top of that, when I talk about some of these players and their plans, some of these rich players do have businesses, but some of them employ black people to get people jobs, and some of them don't. Some of them get all these franchises and put them in suburbs and hardly ever employ their own people. So they're not contributing either way. They just, living their life, which, hey, that's their life. But, if people want to change, I understand you might feel like it hurts your bottom line, so you're being slick about coming out against it. I get that. I don't respect it, though. And I think one of the major issues with all this, to me, at the end of the day, is just say that you like the racism, the prejudice, the white supremacy, the miseducation of prison industrial complex, the stereotyping people, the being able to profit off of all of these things, and you're comfortable with that, and you're just trying to make it last as long as possible, because that's what you're saying. I think Arian Foster said it cool. Y'all want us to just say, y'all, the minute we say something, you like, shut up, nigger, and play ball. Okay. Now, or when somebody tells somebody, like, know your place. Yeah, okay. Play's gonna be my foot in your ass in a minute. But ultimately we know that there's going to be more protests because things need to change. And I don't think in the lip service that America has been giving black people for all these years is not good enough anymore. Because what it's saying is even quote unquote talented tenth and the rich are sick of it. And before I go, I got to say this because I think I'll be running out of time in a second. It's funny how quote unquote backup quarterback who's biracial probably did more for race relations in the last 2 weeks or stood up for black people more in the last 2 weeks than the biracial president. That's messed up. That's messed up. But I mean, he's not saying he's not black. I'm just saying, I'm just using an analogy. So I'm just done, man. Peace.